So just a few housekeeping matters before we begin. We ask everyone to take their seats. The event is being carried live across the Caribbean and the world, and so be mindful of the cameras, and also please keep the exit clear.
The world is changing. Uncertainty is rising. But in moments like these, the Caribbean does what it has always done. We come together to forge our future. This is a moment that demands clarity, courage, and strategic solutions. Solutions that strengthen our people, protect our economies, and build resilience. Not someday, but now. At the Caribbean Development Bank, we're turning action into impact for our region. Right now, leaders, partners, investors, innovators, and youth have gathered in Nassau, Bahamas. This is not just a meeting, it's a mandate. We will shape strategic solutions for uncertain times, empowering youth, strengthening institutions, and accelerating climate action to build a future that is resilient, inclusive, and unmistakably Caribbean. The moment is here. Let us seize it. Welcome to the 56th annual meeting of the Caribbean Development Bank. Together, we will forge the Caribbean's future.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests joining us here and across the region and around the world online via live broadcast in the Bahamas, Belize, and across the Caribbean. Good morning. On behalf of the government and people of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, it is my distinct honor and privilege to welcome you to the opening ceremony of the 56th annual meeting of the Board of Governors of the Caribbean Development Bank. Before we proceed, please permit me to acknowledge distinguished guests joining us this morning. The Right Honorable Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, members of Cabinet, honorable parliamentarians, members of the Diplomatic Corps, senior government officials, leaders of the private sector and civil society, representatives of regional and international organizations, members of the clergy, specially invited guests, members of the media, and again, all those joining us via live broadcast across our region and across the world. Your presence today reflects our shared commitment to regional cooperation, sustainable development, and the continued advancement of the Caribbean people. My name is Barry Griffin, former Vice President of the Senate in the Bahamas and current Chairman of the Bahamas Trade Commission. I am your Master of Ceremonies, and I extend a warm welcome to all delegates to my home, the beautiful Commonwealth of the Bahamas, proud hosts of this year's meeting. At this time, we are honored to invite you to witness a defining moment of this opening ceremony, the procession of the bank's governors. We kindly ask that you hold your applause until all governors have been announced and are in place. Leading the procession, representing the bank's 5 British overseas territories, Anguilla, the Cayman Islands, the British Virgin Islands, Montserrat, and the Turks and Caicos Islands, islands renowned for their natural beauty, commitment to preserving its natural environment, cultural charm, biodiversity, resilience, and vibrant tourism economies. Please welcome Anguilla's first ever female premier, a history-making leader, and a powerful symbol of progress and possibility across the Caribbean. The first governor leading off the procession, the Honorable Cora Hodge Richardson. From Antigua and Barbuda, the home of world-class sailing, rich cultural heritage and a strong voice for small island developing states on the global stage, where there's a beach for every day of the year and a legacy of excellence from cricket, home of Sir Vivian Richards, and a remarkable legacy of West Indies legends, including Sir Andy Roberts, Sir Richie Richardson, Sir Curtly Ambrose, well known for its global advocacy. Kindly join me in welcoming Mr. Whitfield Harris, alternate governor and advisor at the Ministry of Finance. Representing Barbados, the proud home of the vibrant Crop Over Festival and of global icons from Sir Garfield Sobers to Rihanna, a distinguished nation at the forefront of climate advocacy and financial innovation, leading the call for reform of development finance for vulnerable states and helping shape the future of sustainable development on the world stage. Please welcome the Honorable Ryan Strawn, Minister of Finance. Representing Belize, a country at the forefront of ocean conservation and home to the world's second largest barrier reef, where the rhythms of Garifuna culture were carried to the world by Andy Palacio, the homeland of George Price, and a country whose influence spans culture, sport, and global achievement. Please welcome Dr. the Honorable Osman Martinez, Minister of State. From Brazil, Latin America's largest economy, a global agricultural powerhouse, and a key driver of South-South cooperation, the land of Pelé, a global cultural icon and one of the world's most dynamic and influential economies, we welcome Ms. Marcela Tetnazer Laiz, temporary alternate director. From Canada, a global leader in innovation, inclusive growth, and multilateral cooperation, the nation of global statesmen and champions of diversity, including Prime Minister Lester Pearson, Nobel Prize laureate, we welcome Mr. Philippe Hall, temporary alternate governor. Representing Colombia, a nation rich in biodiversity and increasingly recognized for its leadership in sustainable development and regional integration, the homeland of Nobel laureate Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and one of the world's most biodiverse countries, please welcome Ms. Alba Martinez Barrera, temporary alternate governor. From the People's Republic of China, cornerstone of global trade and development finance, with a long legacy of innovation and transformation, an ancient civilization that gave the world many innovations and a modern driver of global development, we're honored to welcome Mr. Lu Li, temporary alternate governor. From Germany, renowned for engineering excellence, economic strength, and leadership in climate and energy transition, the nation that gave the world the printing press and pioneered the modern automobile, birthplace of Beethoven and Einstein, please welcome Mr. Fabian Clem, temporary alternate governor. Representing Grenada, the Spice Island, celebrated for its rich culture, natural beauty, and growing resilience agenda, please welcome the Honorable Lennox Andrews, Governor. From Guyana, one of the world's fastest growing economies, an emerging energy powerhouse, helping reshape regional prospects, please welcome Dr. Tarshand Balogim, temporary alternate governor. Representing Haiti, nation of profound historical significance, symbolizing resilience, cultural strength, and the enduring spirit of its people, please welcome Mr. Jean Boucaud Jean-Jacques, temporary alternate governor. From Italy, a nation whose legacy spans art, innovation, and global influence across centuries of civilization, please welcome Mr. Ludovica Soderini, temporary alternate governor. Representing Jamaica, a cultural superpower whose music, athletic excellence, and global influence continue to inspire the world, please welcome Miss Darlene Morrison, alternate governor. From Mexico, a dynamic economy bridging North and Latin America, rich in history, culture, and global partnerships. Please welcome Ms. Yunin Hernandez, Temporary Alternate Governor. Representing St. Kitts and Nevis, Ms. Laverne Keeley, Temporary Alternate Governor, Deputy Financial Secretary, Ministry of Finance. Representing St. Lucia, a nation of breathtaking beauty, home of Nobel laureates, and a champion of sustainable development, please welcome the Honorable Wayne Gerard, Temporary Alternate Governor. From St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the gems of the Antilles, and a powerful advocate for climate justice and Caribbean resilience, please welcome Prime Minister and CDB Governor, Dr. the Honorable Godwin Friday. Representing Suriname, a richly diverse nation where cultures converge and biodiversity thrives, please welcome Mr. Vincent Fernandez, Temporary Alternate Governor. From Trinidad and Tobago, the birthplace of steel pan and home to one of the region's most dynamic energy sectors, please welcome Mr. Dorian Noel, Temporary Alternate Governor. Representing the United Kingdom, a long-standing partner in development finance and global economic leadership, please welcome Ms. Sarah Labat de Crieff, Temporary Alternate Governor. And from Venezuela, one of the world's most biodiverse nations, rich in natural resources and cultural heritage, please welcome Ambassador Raul Licausi, Alternate Governor. We now also welcome to the stage the distinguished members of the head table. Please join me in receiving CDB's Bank Secretary, Ms. Alana Goodman. Vice President, Corporate Services, Mrs. Jillian Charles Golop. Vice President of Operations, Dr. Isaac Solomon. President of the Caribbean Development Bank, Mr. Daniel Best, Chairman of the Board of Governors. The Honorable Michael B. Halkitis, MP, Minister of Finance of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And ladies and gentlemen, please stand as we welcome the Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, the Honorable Philip Edward Davis, KC, MP. Before we welcome the Prime Minister of the Bahamas, please also join me in welcoming the Deputy Prime Minister of the Bahamas, I. Chester Cooper. And now join me in welcoming the Prime Minister of the Bahamas, Philip Edward Davis, KC, MP. Ladies and gentlemen, These distinguished representatives stand at the highest level of decision-making within the Caribbean Development Bank, each bringing the voice of their nation and together shaping the future of development across our region. Please join me now in warmly recognizing the Board of Governors of the Caribbean Development Bank. We also wish to acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Dr. Natalia Wheatley, Premier of the British Virgin Islands. Ladies and gentlemen, the governors are now in place, and we are ready to begin the 56th annual meeting of the Caribbean Development Bank. Ladies and gentlemen, as we commence this historic gathering, I invite you to join us in paying tribute to our host nation, the country I call home. Please keep standing for the national anthem of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Thank you. It is often said that the future of our nation and our region rests in the hands of our young people. This morning, we are delighted to showcase some of the finest young musical talent in the Bahamas. As you take your seat, please join me in welcoming the National Youth Orchestra of the Bahamas. please give another round of applause for our National Youth Orchestra. What an absolutely amazing display of Bahamian talent. Now, I would be remiss as a Bahamian, and in particularly in the presence of our Prime Minister and our Deputy Prime Minister, who's the former Minister of Tourism, if I didn't use this opportunity to plug the Bahamas. We know that most of you are here for some very serious business, but if that didn't just convince you to explore Bahamian culture while you're here, I'm not sure what would. And even if you're not able to get out of the hotel and explore our culture, we beg that you put your toes in the sand, dip your feet in the ocean, and we're sure that you are going to want to return to the Bahamas. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we formally begin our deliberations, it is fitting that we pause to seek divine guidance and wisdom for the discussions ahead and for the continued prosperity and development of our region. Please welcome now the Venerable James Palacios, who will offer the opening blessing.
Let us pray. Good and gracious God, we acknowledge your presence and we thank you for it. Your presence among us during the course of this 56th annual meeting of the Caribbean Development Bank. We thank you for those who have come from near and far, not only to enjoy the fellowship, but to chart the course for many generations yet unborn. In a world of so many uncertainties, we thank you that we are such an excellent example of Caribbean unity and stability and success. Help us to humbly show the world what can be accomplished when Caribbean people unite. We thank you for our partners from distant land, as we thank you that we all share this common humanity. We thank you, Lord, and remember fondly those whose vision it was to found this august body. Let us remember that we sit in the shade of a tree we did not plant, and we are planting a tree in whose shade we will not sit. Bless our proceedings, Lord, and may it redound to your honor and glory and the building up of the Caribbean region, and indeed the world. In your Son's holy name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Palacios, for those thoughtful and uplifting words. Ladies and gentlemen, we now move to the official opening of the 56th annual meeting of the Board of Governors of the Caribbean Development Bank. It is my honor to invite to the podium the Chairman of the Board of Governors of the Caribbean Development Bank, Governor for the Bahamas, and Minister of Finance for the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, the Honorable Minister Michael B. Halkitis. Minister, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Griffin. Good morning to all. I extend warm greetings to our distinguished leaders, prime ministers, governors, honored guests, members of the diplomatic corps, members of civil society, representatives of the private sector, our regional and international partners, and especially the young people of our Caribbean community who carry the promise of tomorrow. It is both a privilege and a profound responsibility to stand before you at this opening ceremony as we gather under the timely and compelling theme, Forging the Caribbean's Future, Strategic Solutions for Uncertain Times. Those words capture the reality of the moment in which we are living. We meet at a time when uncertainty has become the defining condition of the global landscape. Around the world, nations are grappling with economic volatility, geopolitical tensions, technological disruption, climate emergencies, food insecurity, rising debt burdens, and widening inequality. For the Caribbean, these challenges are not abstract headlines. They are lived experiences. We know what it means to rebuild after hurricanes devastate entire communities. We know what it means to confront rising costs while protecting vulnerable families. We know what it means to defend our economies against shocks that we did not create. And yet, despite these realities, the Caribbean continues to stand with resilience, creativity, courage, and hope. Indeed, the story of the Caribbean has always been a story of resilience. Our ancestors survived slavery, colonialism, displacement, exploitation, and hardship. They built cultures that transform pain into music, struggle into strength, and diversity into unity. They laid the foundation for nations that continue to inspire the world through perseverance and innovation. Today, however, resilience alone is no longer enough. The future demands strategy, the future demands transformation, the future demands bold leadership and collective action. The question before us is not whether uncertainty exists. It does. The real question is whether we will allow uncertainty to define us or whether we will define the future ourselves. And I believe wholeheartedly that the Caribbean possesses the talent, the intellect, the resources, and the determination to shape a future that is resilient, inclusive, sustainable, and prosperous. But to achieve this future, we must confront several urgent realities. First, we must recognize that climate change remains the single greatest existential threat to our region. The Caribbean contributes minimally to global emissions, yet we remain amongst the most vulnerable regions in the world to climate disasters. Hurricanes grow stronger, coastal erosion accelerates, sea levels continue to rise, agriculture, tourism, fisheries, and infrastructure all face increasing pressure from a changing climate. Caribbean leaders and institutions continue to emphasize that resilience and climate adaptation are no longer optional. They are essential to survival and sustainable development. But, ladies and gentlemen, amid this challenge lies opportunity. The Caribbean can become a global leader in climate resilience and sustainable development. We can expand renewable energy. We can invest in resilient infrastructure. We can strengthen food security through climate-smart agriculture. We can unlock the potential of the blue economy and create industries that protect our oceans while generating jobs and innovation. The transition towards green economies is not merely an environmental necessity. It is an economic opportunity for our people. Second, we must strengthen regional unity and cooperation. The Caribbean has always been stronger when we act together. No single nation in our region can confront global uncertainty alone, but together, through coordinated policy, shared innovation, and collective advocacy, we possess a powerful voice on the international stage. Whether the issue is climate finance, trade reform, digital transformation, food security, or access to development financing, our strength lies in unity. As United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres recently stated, quote, "A unified Caribbean is an unstoppable force," end quote. And indeed, our unity must extend beyond governments alone. The future of the Caribbean cannot be built solely in parliament chambers or conference rooms. It must also be shaped by entrepreneurs, educators, farmers, artists, researchers, innovators, labor leaders, and youth advocates. It requires collaboration between the public sector and private sector, between academia and industry, and between civil society and policymakers. The challenges we face are interconnected, and therefore our solutions must also be interconnected. Third, we must place young people at the center of regional development. Across the Caribbean, young people are already leading change. They are launching businesses, driving technological innovation, advancing for climate justice, building creative industries, and reimagining what Caribbean leadership can look like. Yet, too many young people still face unemployment, migration pressures, limited access to financing, and unequal educational opportunities. We cannot speak about forging the future while excluding those who will inherit it. And therefore, we must invest intentionally in education, digital skills, entrepreneurship, research, and leadership development. We must create pathways for young people not only to participate in the economy, but to lead it. The future Caribbean economy will be powered not only by natural resources, but by human creativity, digital innovation, and knowledge-based industries. And this leads to another critical point: technology and innovation. Artificial intelligence, digital finance, renewable technologies, and global connectivity are rapidly transforming the global economy. If the Caribbean fails to adapt, we risk being left behind. But if we embrace innovation strategically, we can position ourselves competitively in a changing global environment. Digital transformation can improve healthcare, education, governance, trade, and financial inclusion. Technology can help small businesses access global markets. Innovation can strengthen disaster preparedness and modernize public services. However, technological progress must be inclusive. We must ensure that rural communities, small island states, vulnerable populations, and underserved citizens are not excluded from the benefits of modernization. True development is measured not only by economic growth, but by whether people feel safer, more empowered, and more hopeful about their future. Ladies and gentlemen, the Caribbean also faces serious economic vulnerabilities that demand strategic solutions. Most of our economies remain heavily dependent on tourism, imports, and external markets. Global disruptions, from pandemics to supply chain crises to geopolitical conflict, have shown us the danger of overdependence. Economic diversification is therefore no longer a luxury. It is a necessity. We must strengthen agriculture and food production. We must support small and medium-sized companies. We must deepen regional trade. We must invest in manufacturing, logistics, renewable energy, financial services, and the creative economy. We must also advocate for fairer access to global financing systems that recognize the unique vulnerabilities of small island developing states. Caribbean institutions and international leaders continue to call for reforms to global financial systems that better account for vulnerability, resilience, and sustainable development needs. Too often, our countries are classified as middle income while carrying overwhelming debt burdens and facing repeated climate disasters. Traditional measurements fail to capture the true realities of vulnerability in our region. The Caribbean deserves development systems that are fair, equitable, and responsive to our circumstances. But even as we advocate globally, we must also act regionally. We must strengthen governance, transparency, and institutional capacity. Strong institutions create investor confidence. Strong institutions improve service delivery. Strong institutions help societies withstand crises and maintain stability during uncertain times. Caribbean development leaders continue to emphasize institutional strengthening as essential to resilience and long-term prosperity. But most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, we must maintain faith in ourselves. The Caribbean never lacked brilliance. We have produced world-renowned scholars, athletes, artists, scientists, innovators, and statesmen. Our cultural influence extends far beyond our geographic size. Our people continue to achieve greatness on every continent. What we need now is the confidence to believe that Caribbean solutions can solve Caribbean challenges. The future we seek will not arrive automatically. It will require vision, it will require sacrifice, it will require courage, and it will require partnership. But history has already shown us that when the Caribbean moves with purpose, extraordinary things happen. And so this morning, as we officially open these meetings, let us commit ourselves to more than dialogue. Let us commit ourselves to action. Let this ceremony mark the beginning of a renewed collaboration. Let it inspire innovative thinking and strategic partnerships. Let it strengthen our determination to confront uncertainty, not with fear, but with confidence and resolve. The Caribbean stands at a defining moment. The choices we make today will shape the opportunities available to future generations. They will determine whether our societies become more resilient or more vulnerable, more inclusive or more divided, more sustainable or more fragile. But I remain optimistic. I am optimistic because I believe in the strength of our Caribbean people. I believe in our resilience. I believe in our ingenuity. And I believe that even in uncertain times, the Caribbean possesses the power to forge a future of dignity, sustainability, unity, and shared prosperity. And so let us therefore move forward together with vision in our minds, courage in our hearts, and determination in our actions. Together, we can forge the Caribbean future we deserve. Thank you, and may these meetings be productive, inspiring, and transformative for our entire region. Thank you very much, and good morning. I now invite the Governor for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. the Honorable Godwin Friday, Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, to the podium to give the reply to the welcome address on behalf of the borrowing member countries.
Good morning, the Honorable Prime Minister of the Bahamas, Philip Davis, the Honorable Chairman of the Board of Governors, Michael Helkides, President of the Caribbean Development Bank, Daniel Best, the Honorable Prime Ministers, Premiers, Ministers, fellow governors, members of the Board of Directors, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for giving me the opportunity to respond to the welcome address on behalf of the borrowing member countries of the bank. I feel blessed. We are grateful to the government and the people of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas for the gracious welcome and hospitality extended to us as guests. You made us feel like the family that indeed we are. Personally, I am delighted to be back in Nassau after so many years. We commend the President of the bank, Mr. Daniel Best, the management and dedicated staff of the bank for the tireless preparatory work and strategic foresight and responsiveness that have set the stage perfectly for the deliberations here. We gather under the theme, Forging the Caribbean's Future, Strategic Solutions for Uncertain Times, which captures well the urgency of this historical moment. We are navigating fast-moving, shifting global geopolitical currents. Old alliances are strained, and long-accepted conventions are being questioned, with no reassuring answers, requiring us now, more than ever, to proceed with a united regional front. The borrowing member countries face a challenging economic environment characterized by persistent structural vulnerabilities, tightening global credit conditions, and severe climate shocks. Central government's debt remains chronically high, with debt to GDP ratios exceeding the prudential 60% target in 9 member countries. In my own country, exceeding 113%. This high debt burden severely limits borrowing countries' ability to fund necessary investments to accelerate economic growth and protect the most vulnerable of our citizens. We face tightening supply chains, rising shipping costs, escalating fuel prices, and high cost of living. Presently, these problems are associated with the Middle East war, but we also know that absent that conflict, we would still be facing difficult economic conditions in our countries. We are further constrained by a challenging international aid environment. Official development assistance from partner governments has experienced a marked decline, exacerbating the critical financing gap. Caribbean nations are forced to do more with less. At a time when the region requires an estimated $14 billion annually for comprehensive climate response, it mobilizes less than 10% of that amount. It is therefore imperative that our development partners become more adaptive, more responsive, and willing to provide highly concessional financing and dedicated resources for loss and damage that will not worsen a bad debt situation. We acknowledge that the Caribbean Development Bank is an indispensable partner in the project of regional economic transformation promised upon regional integration. However, regional economic integration is sustainable only if partners all derive benefit from it and economic disparities among member countries do not grow too wide. The bank is uniquely positioned to promote that end. The CDB is the only multilateral development bank whose core constituents and owners are the Caribbean people. Through decades of working directly in this space, the bank has developed a wealth of experience, talent, and invaluable knowledge about our countries and region. The bank has become indispensable to our development. Consequently, the CDB is well placed to speak credibly and in a focused manner for its Caribbean constituents, and to be in the lead in designing solutions tailored to the needs of our economically and climate vulnerable small open economies. A striking demonstration of this transformative impact is observed in my own country, in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, which after decades of repeated severe shocks have seen efforts on the part of our country and the bank to develop resilient infrastructure. The modern port in Kingstown, the school improvement projects, the road management and rural road programs, all fortify our country in the face of shocks. These interventions prove that when targeted CDB capital is merged with local knowledge, it has the power to transform lives, elevate communities, and build climate-resilient economic assets. To safeguard Caribbean futures, the borrowing member countries call for greater collaboration in building resilience in a comprehensive way, spanning environmental, economic, and social dimensions. This comprehensive resilience framework must guide the bank's operational priorities in the years ahead. The Caribbean has entered the 2026 hurricane season, still nursing severe wounds inflicted by Hurricane Beryl in 2024 and Melissa in 2025. We are familiar with the enormous economic toll those extreme weather events extracted, and therefore must respond effectively. The environmental strategy of the CDB and borrowing countries must focus on building climate resilience, economic assets, upgrading coastal infrastructure, and expanding early warning systems. The bank's Climate Change Project Preparation Fund is critical in resolving resource bottlenecks, enabling timely and enhanced capital flows for adaptation. Economic resilience requires that there be support for countries that absorb shocks while sustaining inclusive growth. The borrowing member countries must aggressively pursue economic diversification across modern frontiers, including digitalizing public services, reducing high fossil fuel imports by exploiting renewable energy sources such as the geothermal projects in Dominica and St. Kitts Nevis, and investing aggressively in solar power. Promoting sustainable use and management of our marine resources, and promoting value-added agro-processing to enhance domestic food security, reduce food imports, and encourage export. Growth, is misguided and unsustainable if it leaves vulnerable populations behind. Social resilience requires strengthening people's ability to withstand shocks by expanding access to essential services and developing responsive and effective social protection systems. Key initiatives like the Basic Needs Trust Fund must continue to act as flagship community development programs, creating inclusive, safe environments across participating countries. Borrowing member countries express their support for the bank's institutional reform agenda, known as CDB Forward, which envisages reforms in governance, in addressing the implementation deficit or gap, workforce considerations, making the bank's operating model more proactive and client-centered. Considering our structural challenges in the region, The bank must make its development impact felt with greater speed and with far more reach. The borrowing member countries have delivered a clear mandate. We must move swiftly to implement the transformative reforms to eliminate friction and drive our institution forward. The need is urgent, and therefore the time to act is now. The borrowing member countries urge the bank to accelerate project implementation, address the persistent issue of undisbursed loans, and reform its procurement frameworks by adopting digital tools and risk-based approaches. We also encourage the bank to aggressively embrace and leverage partnerships with other multilateral development banks, as well as bilateral development partners, to mobilize private capital and maximize co-financing. To sustain this ambitious agenda, the borrowing member countries appeal directly to all CDB shareholders and non-regional partners to fully support the bank in its strategic direction. The 10-year strategic plan requires robust capital backing and expanded resources. In this regard, full support must be given to the Special Development Fund, SDF 11, which remains the lifeblood of concessional financing for the region's vulnerable members. Resistance, adaptation, and an unconquerable spirit define the historical experience of the Caribbean people. Despite our limitations, we continue to deliver better lives for our people. However, the region's development path must not be defined or be limited by our vulnerability. It must be shaped by our deliberate choices, our capable institutions, and by regional solidarity. In the words of Sir Arthur Lewis, the bank's first president, and I quote, "The Caribbean people can solve their own problems. But first, they must find the secret that will put hope, initiative, direction, and an unconquerable will into the management of their affairs." That advice remains relevant today. Let us enter these meetings committed to working collaboratively on these vital governance reforms and sustainable development pathways. And may our choices foster a stable, inclusive, and thriving Caribbean that is sustainable for generations to come. I thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Governor. I now call on the temporary alternate governor for Brazil, Ms. Marcela Tetzner-Leis, to give the reply to the welcome address on behalf of the regional non-borrowing member countries.
Good morning. Dear Honorable Prime Minister of the Bahamas, the Most Honorable Philip Davis, President Daniel Bast, esteemed members of the bank seated at this table, and all the CDB members, fellow governors and directors, and distinguished guests attending the 66th annual meeting of the Caribbean Development Bank. Good morning to you all. It is a great honor to be here representing regional non-borrowing members country, and particularly Brazil, at the highest level meeting of the Caribbean Development Bank. The importance of the CDB extends far beyond the borrowing countries of the Caribbean, as the bank fosters dialogue, cooperation, and development across the wider Latin American and Caribbean region and beyond. 1 year ago, in 2025, Brazil had the great honor of hosting the bank's annual meeting in our capital, Brasilia, and also the Brazil-Caribbean Summit, bringing together representatives from 16 nations under the motto, "Drawing Closer to Unite." President Lula put forward priority areas for cooperation, including environment, energy transition, food security, connectivity, and diplomacy. It took several months of intense work and dedication from our team to make the bank's annual meeting possible. Hence, we know firsthand how much effort takes place behind the scenes of a meeting like this. For that reason, we would like to express our sincere gratitude to the CDB management and, above all, to our host, the Bahamas, for their warm hospitality and excellent organization of this event. For more than a century, CDB has played a vital role in promoting economic cooperation, integration, and development among Caribbean countries through the financing and support of impactful public and private investments. Over time, the bank has continually evolved to respond to the needs of the region and to an ever-changing global landscape. This year, with the launch of the 2026-2035 strategic plan, we are beginning a new cycle. In a world marked by geopolitical instability as well as growing climate and environmental risks, the central theme of the plan could not be more timely: resilience. In this regard, the strategy is particularly successful in organizing its framework around three interconnected pillars of resilience: social, economic, and environmental. These dimensions are inseparable from one another, and it is increasingly evident that economic growth and social well-being are profoundly linked to environmental sustainability. As it engendered this outward-looking strategy, CDB did also undertake important internal reforms. For nearly 2 years, the bank and the members have been engaged in an extensive governance review process. As chair of the Governance Review Committee, Brazil has had the opportunity to follow this work very closely. It is, therefore, with great satisfaction that we witness the conclusion of an important step of this governance review during this meeting. From this point forward, it is time to roll up our sleeves. It is time to move from strategy to implementation, not only in delivering the 10-year strategic vision, but also in carrying out the governance reforms that will make the bank stronger, more efficient, and better equipped to fulfill its mission. May this meeting serve as a moment for reflection, dialogue, and the construction of solutions that allow us to progress even further toward these shared objectives. I wish everyone a successful and productive meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. And finally, I call on the temporary alternate governor for China, Mr. Liu Lei, to give the reply to the welcome address on behalf of the non-regional, non-borrowing member countries.
Thank you, Chair. Your Excellencies, Honorable Mr. Prime Minister, Honorable Chairman and members of Board of Governors, Honorable President Daniel Best, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. On behalf of non-regional, non-borrowing members, I sincerely thank the government and people of Bahamas. Thank you for your warm hospitality in hosting the 56th annual meeting. We would also like to thank CDB team for the excellent organization. This annual meeting's theme, Forging Caribbean's Future, Strategic Solutions for Uncertain Times, is very timely. Caribbean currently faces significant challenges, including climate vulnerability, external shocks, constrained fiscal space, rising inflation, and tightening financing conditions for the global and regional development. In this context, building and maintaining strong institutions, deepening partnerships, and delivering at scale will be essential to sustaining progress. We greatly value our partnership with the Caribbean and our membership in CDB, and we are proud to work together to strengthen resilience, reduce poverty, and promote inclusive and sustainable growth across this region. We would like to recognize the strong momentum established under the leadership of President Daniel Best. Since he took office in February 2025, in a very relatively short period, the bank has made progress sharpening its strategic direction and has achieved many important milestones. President Best and the senior management team have demonstrated a commitment to advancing institutional governance, strengthening delivery, and positioning the bank to meet future challenges. We welcome the Strategic Plan 2026 to 2035. This plan presents an ambitious vision to strengthen social, economic, and environmental resilience in this region. We also support the comprehensive governance review and the bank's first MOPAN assessment. Together, these initiatives build a strong foundation and evidence base. They enhance the bank's ability to deliver for the region. The CDB Forward Roadmap presents a necessary and forward-looking reform agenda to modernize the bank's governance, operating model, institutional culture, and financial capacity. We call upon CDB management to move decisively into high-quality implementation and to look forward to engaging closely with the bank on these efforts. The process will be central to enhancing institutional performance, strengthening delivery, and ultimately achieving greater development impact. We congratulate the bank on the important progress made in strengthening its risk management framework. The use of innovative financial instruments has supported its credit rating and helped increase lending headroom. We are pleased that the bank is operating at the frontier of innovation for MDB balance sheet optimization. Through the exposure exchange agreements with other regional multilateral development institutions and the first loss portfolio credit guarantee with the Government of Canada, which is consistent with the G20 capital adequacy framework agenda. Looking ahead, a central priority will be translating this strategic direction into tangible results for Caribbean. The effectiveness of banks' support will depend on our ability to respond to the specific needs and priorities of its members, focusing on the bank's areas of comparative advantages and meaningful impacts. Strong, focused country engagement strategies will therefore be critical to ensure country ownership, clear strategic direction, coherence across instruments, and measurable achievements. As the bank continues to advance its strategic ambitions, we underscore the importance of strong accountability to shareholders, contributors to the Special Development Fund, client countries, and communities the bank is intended to serve. Continued focus on outcomes, institutional performance, disciplined balance between ambition and delivery, the efficient use of scarce resources to safeguard the bank's financial sustainability will be essential to sustain confidence and support for its work. We encourage CDB to strengthen its procurement standards in line with broader MDB reforms, promoting quality and cost effectiveness, supporting innovation, market engagement, and local employment, thus advancing poverty reduction goals and private sector-led growth. We also encourage the continued and systematic sharing of evaluations and analytical studies and application of lessons learned across all of the bank's instruments. This will help reinforce learning, transparency, and continuous improvement. Finally, we wish to underline the importance of partnership. We encourage the bank to continue strengthening collaboration with other MDBs, development partners, and the private sector. Deeper coordination and harmonization can reduce transaction costs for countries and maximize development effect. The bank plays a vital role as trusted regional partner and convener to align efforts and amplify collective impact. As always, China, together with other non-regional, non-borrowing members, stands ready to continue working in partnership with the bank. We believe that through partnership, we can turn today's strategic choices into lasting outcomes to support resilience, inclusion, and sustainable growth across the Caribbean. Congratulations for this excellent annual meeting. Once again, thank you.
Thank you, Governor. I now invite the President of the Caribbean Development Bank, Mr. Daniel Best, to the podium to address the meeting. President Best.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning to our Honorable Prime Ministers, Honorable Premiers, Ministers, Excellencies, distinguished partners, colleagues, and friends. There could not be a more fitting time or place for us to gather for this, the 56th annual meeting of the Board of Governors, than here in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Let me begin with appreciation and, of course, congratulations to the government and people of the Bahamas. Thank you very much for your warm hospitality. It reflects the very best of the Caribbean spirit, welcoming, united, and forward-looking. The Prime Minister, the Honorable Philip Edward Davis, congratulations on your historic re-election. I wish you every success in this new chapter as you continue to advance the progress and shared prosperity of the Bahamian people. Today, I invite us to reflect on how far we have come, how much we have overcome, and on what this moment is asking of us, because history has a remarkable way of speaking to the present. More than 56 years ago, during a period of profound change, Caribbean leaders gathered with a bold idea. Across the region, countries were emerging from colonialism, building new institutions, defining new identities, and confronting an uncertain future. In the face of those realities, those leaders understood something very important. They understood that uncertainty was not a reason to retreat. It was a reason to build. And so they built. They built the Caribbean Development Bank, an institution created by Caribbean people for Caribbean people, grounded in the belief that our future would be stronger if we faced our challenges together. It is fitting that the inaugural meeting of this institution took place right here in the Bahamas. We returned here in 1980 as countries confronted difficult economic conditions. We gathered again here in 2010 amid the aftermath of the Great Recession. And now in 2026, we meet once more in a world marked by geopolitical fragmentation, climate volatility, technological disruption, public health risk, and shrinking development finance. Different crises, different circumstances, but the same question. How do we build a stronger Caribbean in uncertain times? Friends, uncertainty is not new to us. It is part of our region's story. And every generation before us answered uncertainty with action. So as I reflect on our theme for the coming week, Forging the Caribbean's Future, Strategic Solutions for Uncertain Times, CDB commits that this annual meeting will ensure that we isolate challenges and issues, identify innovations and solutions, implement actions to support meaningful change, and build permanent partnerships. These efforts will drive meaningful impact that will help the bank to innovate, transform, and thrive. Elements of my vision of rebirth for the bank. At the bank, we recognize that many of the challenges we face are not new, but they are being intensified by a rapidly changing global landscape. The impacts of climate change are now more pronounced than ever before. I had the opportunity to visit Jamaica in the immediate aftermath of Hurricane Melissa. And what I witnessed was nothing short of gut-wrenching. Communities flattened, homes gone, and a hospital barely standing. And yet within those damaged walls, nurses and doctors pressed on, working tirelessly to care for the injured. Because that is who we are as a region. We persevere even in the face of devastation. At the same time, the changing global landscape is amplifying external shocks and geopolitical tensions. And their effects are reaching our shores with increasing speed and intensity. We see it in rising oil prices. We feel it in supply chain disruptions that threaten our food security. Uncertainty is now the norm. And as we become more interconnected, the pace of technological disruption is transforming all aspects of our economies and societies. It is present in rural communities where households still struggle with basic connectivity. It is evident in the growing cybersecurity threats that put our personal and national data at risk. Yet it is this very interconnection and integration that holds the greatest promise for our region, unlocking our ability to compete on the global stage, attract world-class investment, and ultimately build resilient, dynamic societies where our young people choose not to leave, but to stay, thrive, and shape the future. Our strength lies in our shared history. Our opportunity lies in our common challenges, and our success will be determined by how boldly we embrace regional collaboration and partnership so that we can do better, move faster, and grow stronger together. Friends, since we last spoke in Brasilia in 2025, we have been busy. We have approved and disbursed in excess of US $400 million to advance critical infrastructure, strengthen educational outcomes, support climate change and disaster response, and strengthen the development of the private sector across our region. We achieved a record US $226.7 million in climate finance commitments, while mobilizing new resources through the Green Climate Fund. Notably, 3 CDB-led GCF proposals were approved, including the first single-country GCF project right here in the Bahamas, strengthening water security and resilience to future storms. Across the region, We are driving impact at scale. In partnership with IDB and regional governments, we are leading a unified effort to retrofit homes in more than 15 countries, transforming vulnerable housing into resilient shelters and protecting millions of Caribbean families from climate shocks. At the community level, resilience continues to grow. Through the Basic Needs Trust Fund, 92 projects have been completed across 9 countries, with a new $53.6 million cycle approved. But we are not stopping there. Our new 10-year strategic plan, 2026 to 2035, is anchored, as you have heard, in social, economic, and environmental resilience, because resilience must shape every investment we make. To translate this into action, we are focusing where it matters most. First, our youth. Nearly half of our population is under the age of 30. Yet too many remain disconnected from opportunity. This is not just a social challenge. It is an economic one. Our strategy prioritizes skills, entrepreneurship, and access to finance so that our young people can build their futures here at home. Let me tell you about Nkrumah Fong. Nkrumah is a young Jamaican innovator and founder of Ceres Labs, who is turning climate ambition into action with Vector One, a pilot technology designed to reduce emissions from vehicles, ships, ports, and generators and buildings. His breakthrough was accelerated through a CDB-funded regional clean tech incubator, implemented with the Caribbean Climate Innovation Center. With targeted support, he transformed an idea into a cutting-edge carbon absorption solution. Vector One shows how CDB investment in youth and innovation is driving climate resilience and green growth in the Caribbean. Second, stronger institutions. Development is about more than financing. It is about delivery. The real test is whether we can turn ideas into outcomes and commitments into tangible improvements in people's lives, because citizens do not experience strategies, they experience results. In Belize, our engagement went beyond financing. CDB supported an institutional diagnostic and governance reform program for the Development Finance Corporation, strengthening its governance, its operations, governance, and long-term sustainability. Today, DFC is a leading development finance institution in Belize, supporting private sector development through business lending, mortgage financing, and student loans. Third, climate action. Climate risk is not a future threat. It is our present reality. We are scaling up investments in resilient infrastructure, renewable energy, and disaster preparedness, while working with partners to unlock innovative financing to strengthen our region's resilience. By supporting institutions such as the Caribbean Center for Renewable Energy and Efficiency and the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, we are helping to strengthen regional coordination, technical capacity, and policy coherence, ensuring that countries are better equipped to plan, respond, and deliver at scale. At its core, therefore, this strategy is about people. The entrepreneur seeking opportunity, the farmer facing uncertainty, and the young person deciding where their future lies. Resilience is not built on paper. It is built in lives. As I shared last year, this is a moment of rebirth for CDB. That is why we have developed an ambitious but practical reform program called CDB Forward. This is the vehicle that will allow us to increase our strategic plan's developmental impact. It is the bridge between vision and execution and rests on 4 pillars: an uncompromising culture of excellence, an improved operating model, enhanced governance and accountability, and strengthened financial capacity. CDB Forward speaks to how the bank must change, but more importantly, to why that change matters for our citizens. The cultural aspect is about who we are as an institution. For the bank, it means building a stronger sense of purpose, accountability, collaboration, and service. For the people we serve, a stronger culture means a bank that listens better, works more closely with countries, and remains deeply committed to improving lives through responsive and values-driven development. The operating model is about how we work. For the bank, it means becoming more agile, efficient, and effective in the way we design, finance, and implement our operations. It is about reducing delays, strengthening delivery, and making sure that our systems support results. For you, our clients, this means development support that reaches you faster, projects that are better prepared and better executed, and solutions that are more closely matched to their needs. Governance and accountability are about trust. For the bank, this means clearer roles, stronger oversight, and better decision-making. For you, it means confidence that the institution is acting with integrity, stewarding resources wisely, and remaining focused on outcomes that matter. Financial capacity is about strength and possibility. For the bank, it means ensuring that we have the resources, tools, and financial resilience to respond at scale, at the scale this moment demands. For the people we serve, it means greater access to financing, stronger support for resilience and growth, and a bank that can do more to help countries confront climate risks, debt pressures, and developmental challenges. Ultimately, CDB Forward will position the bank to serve the Caribbean with greater purpose, credibility, and impact in a decade that will demand nothing less. Friends of CDB, as we look ahead to this week, we recognize that in a world defined by uncertainty, we must go further. We must move from commitment to execution because uncertainty demands strategic solutions. This meeting is intentionally designed not just for dialogue, but for results, building partnerships and advancing implementations. Our seminars are no longer just discussions. They are solution labs focused on delivering practical responses to real challenges. The William G. DeMaas Lecture continues to anchor our thinking, challenging us to rethink development in a rapidly changing world. This year, Justice Dennis Barrow reminded us of a crucial point. Strong institutions, particularly judicial systems, are fundamental to resilience, investor confidence, and inclusive growth. We are also proud of the strong presence of the youth, not as observers, but as co-creators, ensuring that solutions for the future are shaped with those who will inherit it. Our platforms reflect this shift from ideas to action. The Impact Room is where strategy meets execution, advancing projects, partnerships, and private sector engagement. EdgeX connects innovation, technology, and development. From Dr. Ray Julian Furlong's work on transportation systems to our very own economist analysis of global uncertainty, these sessions focus on data-driven, forward-looking solutions. The Breakfast Exchange brings partners together to tackle financing and structural vulnerabilities facing SIDS, including climate and agricultural resilience. The President's Chat, with leaders from CABE and the OPEC Fund, centers on collaboration and how development institutions must evolve to respond effectively to today's challenges. But the true strength of this meeting lies in its people, governments, the private sector, IFI partners, civil society, academia, and voices too often unheard. Because inclusive solutions are the only ones that will ultimately endure. Friends, the moment before us is urgent, but it is also full of possibilities. The challenges we face are real, but so too is our capacity to overcome them together. And I say this with confidence because when I look across this room, I see something far more powerful than uncertainty. I see leadership. I see partnership. I see innovation. I see determination. And I see the same spirit that brought Caribbean leaders together more than 56 years ago. Those leaders looked beyond the crises of their moment and chose to build an institution that would serve generations they would never meet. Today, we are the beneficiaries of that vision because the Caribbean has never waited for history to happen to it. We have always been at our best when we had the courage to shape history ourselves. That was true when this bank was established. It was true through every challenge that follows. And it must be true again now. So let us leave this meeting with urgency. Let us leave with purpose. Let us leave with a renewed commitment to partnership. And let us leave determined to build a Caribbean that is stronger, greener, more resilient, more inclusive, and more prosperous than the one we inherited. Because if those visionary leaders who founded this institution could look upon us today, I believe they would ask only one thing of us: to be as bold in our moment as they were in theirs. I thank you.
Thank you very much, President Best. I now invite the Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, the Honorable Philip Edward Davis, to address the meeting. Please welcome him to the podium.
I adopt the protocol established and just welcome each and every one of you here. It is my honor, of course, to welcome you to the Bahamas and to open this 56th annual meeting of the Caribbean Development Bank. To every governor, every minister, and every partner who traveled here to be with us, I just say welcome. You've come to a nation that sees this bank as one of our own. It was built by our region. It answers to our region. It carries the purpose of our region. We have called this gathering Forging the Caribbean's Future. It is a strong theme, but we should be honest from the start, because honesty is the only foundation that holds. You cannot forge a future with borrowed fire. The world as it is has grown smaller, not larger. Capital that once moved freely now hesitates at our shores. Our banks lose correspondent relationships, and our businesses are cut away from a financial system that the rest of the world takes for granted. We are told, often at the same time, that we are too small to matter on the one hand, and too prosperous to be helped on the other. A single storm can erase a year of our national income in one night. That same storm can disqualify us from the financing we need to recover, because a formula written in a distant capital has decided that we are ineligible because we have graduated. Let me say in the serious of terms, we do not feel like graduates when the seas around us are rising. Climate finance, when it arrives, comes late. And too often it comes as a debt burden to our state. So we rebuild. But we borrow to rebuild. And the debt we carry crowds out the schools, the clinics, and the ability to invest in other opportunities that we owe our people. This is the world as it is. You know it. I'm here to name it honestly because no lasting progress is built on a borrowed truth. We also have to be honest about ourselves. For too long, we have treated endurance like achievement. We have survived hurricanes and pandemics, debt and downturns, and we have called that strength. It is strength. But this morning I must say the harder thing. We have been resilient for so long that we have begun to mistake survival for progress. Surviving the storm is different from changing the conditions that create it. Enduring the old order is different from building a better one. A region that learns only to survive will be asked to survive again and again and again until survival is the only thing it knows how to do. And I say we, without exception, because the Bahamas lives with the same reality. We too have lived as tenants in a house we did not build, following rules drafted in rooms where we had no seat. I'm here as a leader who believes the time to build has arrived. Our own home. That is the truth at the center of our gathering. The global financial architecture was not designed for us. It was designed without our storms, our scale, and our future in mind. We've been tenants of this architecture across generations, and the rent keeps rising. The rules keep changing without our consent. And no outside power is coming to fix it for us. So we are left with one clear path. And I ask every governor in this hall to consider it. If we will not write the rules of our own financial future, then we will be left only to discover how to survive within the rules of others. Those who refuse to write the rules will, in the end, become tenants subjected to a state of perennial survival. There's no easier path. We simply wait for the house to repair itself. And we cannot do that. We're not the first to face this choice. I want to tell a story because it may be the most important thing I say to you this morning. Africa faced the same choice. African nations were told what we were told. Too great a risk, too fragmented, too small to be financed at scale. And Africa made a choice. Africa did not knock louder. Africa built its own door. They founded the African Export-Import Bank, Afri-Exim Bank, an institution to finance African trade on African terms. They did not wait for permission. They began the work themselves. Look at what that institution can do now. This year, Afri-Exim Bank raised its commitment to our region from $3 billion US to $5 billion. More than $750 million has already reached our region. A pipeline of more than $2 billion is still to follow. They are building a trade center in Bridgetown, and they've turned their attention to something that should get the attention of everyone in this room: the creation of a Caribbean Export-Import Bank, a Caribbean Exim Bank, an institution that could finally be our own. We should be clear about what this means. It was not charity passing down from north to south. It was solidarity rising from south to south. It was one part of the global majority saying to another, we have built our own house, now we will help you build yours. Africa did not wait. The only question that remains this morning is whether we will. And I know what gives us some pause. It is not the cost of building. It is what I call a quieter doubt. The doubt that we can't act together at all. There are some, even in this room, who feel the pull of a familiar temptation to place one nation first, to pursue the national interest alone, and to leave the regional interest to fend for itself. I understand that temptation. Every leader here answers first to their own people. That is not a weakness. It is the duty of office. There is an African proverb that speaks directly to this moment. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. The Caribbean has never needed speed. The Caribbean has always needed distance. And no single one of our economies, no matter how determined, can travel that distance on its own. So we must not allow ourselves to be turned against one another, competing for the same scarce capital, the same investor, the same narrow advantage, while the architecture that disadvantages every one of us is left untouched. When we are set against each other, we never win. And we must not tear down the institutions we have already begun to build for ourselves. CARICOM is the first house we built together. It is not finished. It is not perfect. No union of free nations is ever perfect. But you do not abandon the house you are building because the wind grows harder or because a door begins to stick. You stay and you finish the work. We are a nation where our union is weak. We should strengthen it. Where it is broken, we should repair it. Where it has fallen short, we should not walk away. We should ask the harder question of how to make it work. Whether we choose to act together or apart, one truth will not bend to our preference. The same tide that lifts one of our islands lifts them all. The same storm that floods one of our shores threatens every other. We may sail under different flags, but we are passengers in the same vessel. No one bails water from one end of a sinking ship and claims he is safe. Some will say that this kind of ambition is wrong for uncertain times. I believe the opposite. Uncertainty is the reason to build. A sailor does not wait for calm water to learn his craft. He learns because the sea will never be still. So let me be practical, because a vision without a plan is only an idea. We must pool the strength we already have. No single Caribbean economy can finance its future alone. Together, we are a market the world has every reason to take seriously. It is no longer enough to be a region the world is willing to invest in. We must become a region willing to invest in itself. We must no longer accept that a credit rating built for a continent that should decide the fate of an archipelago. We must create tools of our own, regional guarantees, blended finance, mechanisms that reward our resilience instead of punishing our geography. We should be measured by the future we are willing to finance, not by the disasters we are forced to survive. We must use the institutions we already have, beginning with this one. The strategic plan of this bank for the years 2026 to 2035 gives us a foundation. We should build on it, not around it. And we must invest in the one asset that no agency can ever downgrade and that no storm can ever wash away: the mind of a Caribbean child. We owe our young people far more than survival. We owe them prosperity. And we owe them something even more powerful: a reason to stay in the region. Today, too many of our brightest leave these shores and do not return because the future they want is being built somewhere else. Every gifted mind that leaves tells us something about the future we have offered them. We must change that verdict. We owe our children more than a region to inherit. We owe them a region worth staying for. We should give them an education that teaches more than endurance. It must teach them to be curious, to question, to imagine, and to compete with any mind in any place in a world that changes faster than any curriculum can follow. A region that values curiosity. Curiosity is a region that can never be left behind. The future will not belong to those who simply endured it. It will belong to those who dared to build it. So let me be clear about where we now stand. This is not a storm to be waited out. It is a tide that has already turned. We do not seek a final room in another's house. We're laying a foundation of our own. We do not ask for a seat at a table that others have set. We are building the table. And we are no longer the small, the vulnerable, the high risk on another's ledger. We are the place where the Caribbean comes to forge its future. That is the name written on the door of this gathering. It should become the name on the door of the house we build. So what does this ask of us? It asks us to accept that resilience is no longer enough. Surviving a shock is not the same as shaping a future. A region that only endures will remain poorer, more fragile, and more dependent than it needs to be. And what must we do now? We must build. We must deepen our partnerships with Afri-Exim Bank, for example. We must move from speaking of a Caribbean Exim Bank to bringing one to life. We must give this bank's plan our political will, not polite applause. And we must finance the ambition of our children with the same seriousness we give to our debt. We cannot build the future of the Caribbean on the old order. That order is passing, and nostalgia for it is no strategy at all. This must be the era of possibility. But possibility is not a feeling we talk into existence. It is an institution we build with a balance sheet, with a building, and with a name. We have been tenants long enough. We are no longer asking for the keys to a house we did not build. We are laying the foundation of one that we will. History should not remember us as a generation that survived the old world. It should remember us as the generation that built the new one. To every nation of this region, ready to do the work, I say this morning, the Bahamas will build with you. Thank you. Together, let's forge this future with our own fire, with our own hands. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I now bring this opening ceremony to a close.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We ask that all guests and attendees remain seated as the head table now leaves and proceeds to take a group photo, and the head table will be followed by all of the governors. We also ask that all governors return to this room after the photo session for 12:30.